Ilysa Kira.
And I'm Kira Sly.
And you're watching episode 4 of Polymer Clay TV. Today we're going to show you how to work with ink. And we're going to show you how to stamp into the clay and then add ink as a finishing touch. And then Kira is going to show you how to add the ink to the clay to change the color of the clay and get your own unique colors. First I'm going to start with a kneaded piece of clay, and I'm going to roll it between my hands to make a ball. And then I'm going to flatten it on my work surface and use my rod to do that. And then I'm going to add a little bit of water, and I say a little because we don't want it to be too wet when we add the ink. We want to wipe it off. And I add a little water so it doesn't stick, and I place it down onto my piece of clay, then use my rod to add the texture. And because these are clear, you can see through them, and you can lift it up to see if it's taken the impression, and this has. Now let me pick that up and show you. This is the impression. Now I want to wipe it off and get the water off that's on there. That was my mold release, excuse me. And now I like to use my finger. And you can get a neat effect by adding several colors. And I just get a little of the ink on my finger and then gently roll it on top of the impressed image. And then I can come back. These are actually Tsukineko's Dewdrop Brilliance. And these ones are metallic. And then I can add a little other color, this is a brown color, and you get a really neat effect. And it's that easy. Kira, you want to show them the technique?
Yes. I'm going to actually put some of this pearlescent sky blue, also a Tsukineko Dewdrop Brilliance color, into, this is a mix of pearl and silver, equal amounts, that I have pre-mixed together to get a sort of light silver color. And I'm going to just put a bunch of this ink right into the clay and mix it up. It's messy, but it's fun. And pigment inks are one type of ink you can use with polymer clay, and they actually have this ink has pieces of blue pigment in it, which will mix into the silver and white clay that's already blended and turn it a little bit more blue. This ink is different from dye ink. When you're buying ink, you need to make sure that it's pigment or dye. For this one, you're using pigment ink, and it's actually the blue pigment that's turning the clay a color, whereas if it was a dye ink, it would actually be seeping into the clay and dyeing it. We'll be showing that in a later episode.
Right.
So I just need to mix in enough of this that the blue shows. It takes a couple minutes, but because the clay can take a lot of extra pigment.
Right. And the clay is heat set ink. This is actually not clay. The clay is not heat set ink. The ink is a heat set ink, and since you have to fire polymer clay anyways, it just really works well.
Yeah, they complement each other really nicely. So you can see here my clay is starting to turn more blue.
So if you had white and you only had white clay and you wanted blue, this would be a good technique to mix the clay with the ink. And
so here I'll show you a piece of how it started out, and this is now turning into a nice more blue color. And now I'm going to show you one of my other techniques that I like to use with texture sheets or a rubber stamp, anything that can create a texture in the clay. I sometimes use the ink as an actual release, which means I'm going to stamp it right onto my texture sheet. So it'll be moist, and it'll act as a release agent so that when I press my clay into it, the ink's going to go down into the cracks, and it's also going to create a nice easy release. This clay is going to peel right off this sheet.
So Kira presses hers into her texture, whereas I roll my texture into my clay.
Right.
So there's two different techniques, and they're both fun to try. There you go. Look at how cool.
Now when this is heated and cured, this is actually one of the only times you might catch me sanding maybe just the very top layer of this stamp to pull the ink off of it so the sky blue color shows through, and that the ink would be in the cracks of this stamp.
For a neat effect. Okay. Well, we hope you try this technique. It's a lot of fun, and you can do a lot of things with it. You can turn this into jewelry. You can make a variety of things with this technique. So just have fun with it. We hope you'll join us next time on Polymer Clay TV. Thanks for joining us.
Make sure you tune in next week to Polymer Clay Podcast, when we will be talking about dye ink.
You send me some sorry lines, but passion undying, that the oceans can't subside. The storm blew from behind with all of your lies. You pushed me aside. I traveled the world for you, straight like a fool, the cold-bone truth. Nobody wants to know. Nobody knows me, no. Nobody even cares. No, no. I see a scream.